Good evening. Good evening. How you guys doing out there, basketball world? This In the Spotlight podcast. Your host, Mike Melton, tonight. And we got a very, very special guest tonight. A very close friend of mine, Jason M. Corley. How you doing, Jason, tonight, brother?
Hey, what's up, Mike, man? I appreciate you giving me this platform just to let my my voice and my message echo throughout the basketball community. I want to just say before we start, man, I always looked up to you from back in the day when you first started the Spotlight, man, over there in Eaton Crest. You know what I'm saying? So I remember them days, man, and then how it grew, and you even gave me a job, man. You let me run 2 gyms on my own, man. So, I really appreciate you giving me another opportunity to, just speak my piece on your platform.
Man, I appreciate you coming on. And as always, we always start off the In the Spotlight podcast with a special dedication to a player that has lost their lives, that playing in the basketball spotlight events, or a basketball player throughout the country. Tonight, we'd like to dedicate this broadcast to Dejon Allen Jordan of Plainfield. This kid played in the Allen Jordan started in b-ball spotlight events. Dejon Allen Jordan, March 8th, 1994, and passed away May 3rd, 2021. Allen Jordan starred in b-ball spotlight events with a talented MSU Skyliner squad. Dejon then went to Plainfield High School, where he helped the Cardinals win back-to-back New Jersey State championships. The school first state title since 1983. Upon graduation from Plainfield, Allen Jordan went on to star at Francis Marion University, Western Oklahoma State, and Campbellsville University. He ended his playing career playing professional in the NBA D-League and overseas. He was tragically taken from us May the 3rd, 2021 from an automobile accident. Dejon was a very nice kid and will be there and is dearly missed by everyone who knew and loved him. Man, this kid played in my tournaments with MSU Skyliners. They had a solid squad. And that's the same squad that actually went on to play at Plainfield, and they won back-to-back titles. And I used to write about him and talk about how talented he was, and that people was going to see a lot of his talent later on once he started to blossom. And it all came true, man. He stepped his game up, grew to be like 6'7", and he just like turned into a monster, man. The kid was a baller, man. And I remember reading about when he was in that car accident and feeling like, wow, man, why such things like that got to happen to so many good people, man. You know what I'm saying? So, Dejon, this episode of In the Spotlight podcast is dedicated to you, brother. Now, Mr. Corley, my guy from college, man. You know what I'm saying, man? And it's been a pleasure. And I just wanted to say I'm so proud of you, bro. I see all the stuff that you into. First, I need to figure out how do you be doing all of this stuff, how you be juggling all of this stuff you got going on, bro. You like all over the place. But just to have a friend that's the athletic director at Long Branch and president of NJSIAA, man, it's an honor to call you my friend, brother. I appreciate it, man. For real.
I appreciate you, man. And listen, the motivation comes from when we hung out back in the day, man. Things we used to do, Again, I'm gonna just touch on what I said earlier, man. I'm grateful to have you in my life as my friend, because when I transferred from Connecticut to Keene, you were one of the first people I met and befriended me. So
indeed.
At that point, man, we were doing so much. Maybe not in a professional sense, but we were doing so much and we were juggling so much, it just became second nature, man. So I can say you're a part of my growth. So any success you feel like I had, because to me, I don't feel like I'm successful. I just feel like I'm just doing, the work I was put here to do. And,
praise the Most High, brother. Praise the Most High, brother.
I feel like you're part of that.
All right. So let's take it from the beginning. Talk about growing up in Long Branch and what was life like, brother.
Oh, man. So, back in the day, when I grew up in Long Branch, it's totally different than the way it is now. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess the world is different, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we didn't what they call it the microwave age. We didn't have computers. Everybody was outside. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you had your section that you call the projects, right? Every city had their little projects, and you know, I grew up in my projects, Hampton Apartments, Garfield Court, Grant Court, and I'm fortunate because I did have two parents. You know, I'm one of
Mm-hmm.
the people that had two parents.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my mom was on welfare. You know, we were beating the system, right? My dad
Mm-hmm.
worked full time on the racetrack. My mom was on welfare. We lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. You know, I grew up with my bedroom being in the front room, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Couch, whatever, you know, I felt like that night. But I was happy. I didn't, you know, people like they say on TV, I didn't feel like I was poor. I mean, but it was
Mm-hmm.
what it was. You know, I went outside, had plenty of friends. But, you know, I know this is a sports program. We grew up outside. We learned how to play sports outside. You know, when we got to school, they had to teach us the rules, right? Um, are we paused, Mike?
Hello?
Yeah. All right. There you go. There you go. I lost you for a
Yeah.
minute. But like I was saying, you know, growing up in Long Branch, we played outside. You know, every basketball court was filled. Every, you know, big lot of grass, which we played football, tackle football. You know, we started organized sports back then. You know, we had the Garfield Court football team against the Grant Court football team,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
the Poop side football team. You know, we had those type of things growing up. So, you know, we just played. And then, like I said, when we got to school and played organized sports, then we learned the rules.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so there
Mm-hmm.
was no such thing as a trainer teaching us how to play. We taught each other and
Mm-hmm.
and took our bumps and lumps, um, you know, to get to where we needed to be, and then learned the rules and figured out, oh well, can't do that. But we were tough. We had that animal, that monster, that dog in us, you know,
Mm-hmm.
playing organized sports in high school. So, you know, that's pretty much how it was growing up in life, man, just being outside.
Then you come to Keene and you had went to college in Connecticut first playing football, then you transferred to Keene, and then that's when we met each other. And talk about your transition when you came over in college.
So in high school, you know, I was pretty a decent player. You know,
Mm-hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
somebody that was on the team, right? So I had a couple of offers, but academically, I didn't do what I was supposed to do. You know, I was
Mm-hmm.
chasing girls.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was all state that, all this, 2 years all state football. In our area, short conference, I was all sure and all that type of stuff. I was MVP at the all sure game. Then I wind up, I was going to sign and go to Boston College, but then I didn't clear academically. I didn't pass the SAT.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back then, and I'm kind of embarrassed to say it, but you know what? It's part of my history. It's a part of who I am, and a part of my growth. But back then, you just needed a 700, and
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
I scored a 680 3 times. Excuse me, 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't get that 20 points. So I wind up having to go as a Proposition 48 to the University of New Haven.
Mm-hmm.
So I wind up going out there, and you know, I had a blast out there. And the way I got to how I got to Keene was I had met a group of friends because you know I'm a loyal guy. My team is the Jets, New York Jets. You know what I mean? Like if you like the Jets, you loyal. You know, by listening to me, just know that tell you my character right there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I met some guys at New Haven, and that was my team. You know, that was my team. That's who I moved with. That's who I did everything with when I was there. And they played football. So at the end of the year, we had to. Our coach was Tony Sperano. You know, rest in peace. He was actually the head coach of the Miami Dolphins.
Mm-hmm.
He was our head coach at New Haven, and he would bring you in at the end of the year and just tell you if he's going to bring you back, if you're going to get your scholarships. And, he told me that I earned my scholarship, so I would be returning as a scholarship athlete, but my friends wasn't. He was letting them all go. And then, we went back to the room and they all talked about where they were going. And most of them went to Virginia Union. So they was like, yo, you should come with us. And, I was just upset. I was young, dumb. I didn't know. And I came home, had a conversation with my parents, and I just said, I didn't trust the coach or whatever. I think he was going to do me dirty. It was that easy to let somebody, I didn't know. I didn't know college sports was a business at that point. Still thinking, you the man, you're in high school, you can get in trouble and still play type of situation. So I wind up leaving there and coming to Keene. And when I got to Keene, they welcomed me with open arms. And I'm glad I came to Keene, man, because I met some great dudes like yourself and whatever friends, and it was a great experience, and I still was able to have the opportunity to go to the next level, even though I came down. So I still had interest from professional teams, even though I was down at Keene University. So
you definitely ain't look like you belong there. You used to be on the football field like, yo, this dude look like a professional player in his uniform. What is he doing playing here, yo? You definitely look like you was supposed to be at Oklahoma, Nebraska, one of them joints in your uniform, bro. We used to laugh about that all the time, man.
So if there's any young people on here, man, it's not where you at, where you end up. You gotta do, man, they'll find you. They'll get an opportunity.
So then you graduate from Keene. What made you want to return home and do service in Long Branch, especially in the school system and stuff?
Listen, man, I didn't have a plan. What happened was, the best thing that could have happened to any man, I was having a baby. I was having a baby. My girlfriend at the time was pregnant our junior year at Keene. I didn't know what to do. You know what I'm saying? I just remember my father saying, if you get somebody pregnant, you're going to have to get a job.
I remember your dad. That was my man.
You're going to get a cut. So in my head, it's like, oh, man, I want to finish college. But my dad, like, you got to get a job, so you're going to have to leave college. So that was my mindset was, oh, man, I'm going to have to drop out and get a job. So, I ran into my old basketball coach, Donald Colvin, and he was a vice principal at the time. So just like, yo, come back. You could sub every day. If you do 10 days, you get an extra $100 in your pay or whatever the case may be. So I started subbing every single day. So I would, commute, sub, go to football practice or whatever. Then I would do, I would be a substitute custodian at night too. So I would sub during the day, and then at night I would stay on and do substitute custodian. So I did that in our off seasons, commuting back and forth. So I was doing that for a while. And then at that point, after I graduated, they was like, hey, you can have a job. So they hired me full time right before I graduated. And that was the year that I dislocated my knee.
I remember that.
So after I dislocated my knee, I started subbing. I actually had to go back and finish school at night. And then that's when I graduated. And at that time, I had even had the tryout with the Jets. So trying out with the Jets at that time, but I wasn't fully healed. So, that didn't work out. And then I got a teaching position. So, things started happening, real fast for me.
It definitely did. And I was around for a lot of that. So how did you become the athletic director, the position you hold now in Long Branch?
That's funny, right? So now I'm teaching, and I grew up as, respecting people that gave me structure. So that
Mm-hmm.
structure and that discipline is what made me who my personality was in the school system.
Mm-hmm.
And then even following our friend Terrence Wilkins, just watching how he progressed,
Mm-hmm.
kind of made me like say, damn, this is my guy. I'm seeing what he's doing. He's my age. He's just like me. Because I never saw myself as a educator or a principal, but then I'm hanging with somebody that's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
That made me feel like, okay, you could do this too. And then, watching you when you became into the education system, because we actually at first interviewed together with Mr. Fareed.
I remember that. I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that. Wow, you took me back there.
Yeah.
I remember that. I remember him saying, I remember he told us, if you don't accept this job, I'll never forget. I ain't gonna never forget you. I remember that. Yo, I said, yo, this dude like a mob boss. Yo.
Yeah, Mr. Freeman didn't play, man. Still don't. You want to go to A. But yeah, so I started teaching, and then I became this facilitator position. So I got to go back a little bit to come forward for that answer. So I became this position called a student facilitator, and I was working for a guy named Gary Pinter, who was principal at the time. And he said, "Hey, Jay, I need you to run the summer enrichment camp." Like, I'm not ready to run, teachers and all that stuff. Like, I'm fresh in the game. And, I ran the camp and I ran it like a drill sergeant, and it actually went well. To this day, there's a lot of things that I put in place that people still do. Now, I don't get the credit for it, but at the end of the day, I'm watching people do things. I'm like, I started that. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know where they got that from, but I started that, and nobody's gonna give me the credit, nor do I need it. So after I did that, I went back to school. I had got my first master's in education, so I could become certified, and then I got my second master's in educational leadership. So, then a bunch of principal positions open, and I thought at that time I was ready to be a building principal. So that was the goal. The goal was to be a building principal. So I went into the interview, and I interviewed to be a principal, and I could have told you I killed it. Killed it, because the position of student facilitator is basically an assistant principal position, except you get teacher pay. So I thought I went in there, I had the experience, I ran the elementary school, I did the enrichment camp, but they told me I didn't get the job. So I was kind of upset about that. The next day, now, the principal I was working for, he had moved up to central office. So he was my supervisor at the time, and he said, you know what, Jay, you didn't get that building principal position. We're going to make you the athletic director. So
look at the Most High.
And this is the crazy part, Money. This is the most crazy part, Mike. I didn't even know what the athletic director position was. I swear I did.
Look at the Most High. Look at the Most High.
When he told me that, and we had a great relationship, me and Mr. Pinter, to the point that I was able to voice my concerns or to him any way I wanted to. I could use any tone I wanted to with him. And we started screaming at each other, because he's telling me I'm gonna love it. I'm telling him I don't even know what that is. I coached for 15 years, but I still didn't know the dude that was hiring me was the athletic director. Isn't that wild? And then somebody had to tell me that when I was in high school, who the athletic director was.
Wow.
His name was Chuck Ferrara, and I thought he was just a principal, a kind of a arrogant principal at that point, in that sense. But I never knew the position athletic director and what it was. I thought it was like somebody that security at games, you know.
Mm,
And when people see me,
wow.
they like, oh, you know, big black guy, you know, bald head, tough, stern, very disciplined, militant type of attitude. So when he said that, I'm like, man, I don't want to be no site supervisor. So when I got the position, there was nobody to train me. I'm just sitting in the office looking crazy. You know, I'm cleaning, and then I get a couple phone calls like, hey, we need this. Hey, we need that. Then I started learning. And this is pretty much where my life really turned around. It was a guy named Bill Bruno. At that time, he was the athletic director for Brick Memorial and Brick Township. They only had one athletic director at that time, and he ran both districts. And he called me, and he started mentoring me.
Wow.
His sister was the head nurse in Long Branch. So that's where the connection came from. So he started mentoring me. And if anybody in the sports world know, Bill Bruno moved on to become part of the NJSIAA. And that's how I got my foot in the door, because he brought me. Now, rest in peace to him too. He passed away. But you know, that's how that door opened up for me.
Now, detail some of your responsibilities that you have as the athletic director at Long Branch. Like, what do you actually do, since you know what the job is now?
Yeah. Well, the first thing you got to do, you got to get a great secretary or great assistant. You know, I have a great person in Mrs. Terry Roberts. So if you ever call the athletic department in Long Branch, her name Terry Roberts. She's the real athletic director. I'm just the face they put on the postcards, but she can tell you everything from transportation to schedule changes to staff to observations, evaluations, you know, anything there is, she could tell you. But my main responsibilities is, and if you know athletic directors, just to put it simple, we're the only administrator whose job you can lose at any moment. You know, a building principal can have 50. If you got 1,700 kids in your building, and 1,000 of them fail classes, that building principal doesn't lose a job. And they don't move him or her. Athletic director, all I need is one good running back to fail and not be able to get an athletic scholarship. And somehow that's my fault.
I never even thought about it like that. That's
I'm going to be dragged. You know what I mean? If there's kids, you know, something wild happening in the bathroom where there's no supervision. And, you know, I don't want to go into detail, but something wild happens. That building principal is not going to lose their job for that. They're going to hold that person who should be in that position. Not in that position, but, you know, the hall aide or security, they're going to hold them accountable. Now, and I know you see this all in the front page of every paper, hazing and all that type of stuff. That wherever there's a hazing situation, that athletic director was moved or fired. You see what I'm saying? And you know, and it's not the coach's fault or all of that, even though they might wipe out the coach too. But you know, you see the athletic director is always held accountable for that. So that just shows you the amount of pressure that we have in this position to make sure that everybody's on notice, everybody receives all the information. Everything has to be airtight in athletics. Athletics, one of those, you mess up once, you're the front page of the newspaper.
So what do you put in place? What kind of measures do you put in place with your coaching staffs and things like that to try to prevent these kind of things from happening, such as hazing and other things like that?
Well, before I go into that, you got to understand a coach is a stipend. That's a stipend position. That's not even a full-time teaching position. First thing, and you know, I hold seasonal coaches meeting just to go over, just to reiterate and go over, protocols, policies, and all those type of things with our coaches every season. On top of that, I send them all types of documentations and emails just to be, it's just like if you go to any court of law and there's litigation, it's not what you say is what you can prove, So I send everything, so it's airtight. Again, nobody can say, "Well, we didn't know." You can say it, but you go to litigation and that that you look crazy in there. But like I said, we have meetings. I meet with the head coaches. I meet with the assistant coaches. I meet with all the coaches at least twice every season because I want to just keep sending reminders. And I have a weekly calendar where my secretary sends out, because the biggest thing is supervision. So sends out a reminder, make sure you're supervising your kids. And I have a Google Doc. Google is probably the greatest thing that was invented for athletic directors, because what I do is I have a Google Doc that goes to every coach, and they have to put in their plans, right? So my thing is, I make you tell on yourself. If you don't want to do the job and try to sneak out, I make you tell on yourself. So you write down your supervision plan. That stays there. So we need to refer back to it. This is what if there's a kid in the hallway or if a kid is somewhere ain't supposed to be, and I go there, you said you're going to be here. There was nobody there. So I can document that you wasn't there. These are your words that I'm using against you. So, I have a lot of stuff like that I do to hold coaches accountable, because I don't want to have the conversation of, I didn't know, I should have did this. No, it's right here in black and white. You said you would be standing at this door at 3:00. 3:00, there was a fight. You wasn't at the door. So we don't need to conversate. You're either fired or there's some type of reprimand that's going to take place at that point.
Now, you being from Long Branch and being a community guy and knowing a lot of the guys that you grew up with that becoming coaches, how do you balance that with your relationship as their friends?
You know what? That's a great question, because the people that work with me, they work for me. And maybe I said that wrong. The people that work for me work with me. So they show me that our friendship was mutual, right? The respect I have for them, they have for me. My best friend, Terrence. Terrence is the first one to have all his paperwork in. First one to discipline a kid or whatever the case may be. That's how I know I don't have to worry about him. That's how I know we're friends, right?
That's dope, bro.
He's not looking for the hookup. Hey, Mr. Corley, he makes sure that his staff, hey, did you text Mr. Corley? Did you tell Mr. Corley? So I don't really have no issues like that.
That's dope, man. That's dope. That's
6'9", 6'9".
Yeah.
He played on the 2 championship teams. He was one of the best big men in the state of New Jersey when he played. They won the first team in Long Branch history to go back-to-back.
I remember that.
Champions. He's my basketball coach. And it's funny, he always told me I was his mentor and the person he looked up to when he was in school.
Wow, praise the Most High.
Yeah. He's another one. 6, you want to play this game? You want me to add this team? Whatever you feel. Don't ask me if I want to play. If you want us to play, you're playing. We just recently had a situation where Rumson wanted to play us one extra game. Now, our season's over. And, he knows I had a relationship with Doug from the fort. And, it's a Jewish guy that I have a relationship with. He knows that I like to keep relationships with people because I know you wash one hand.
Indeed.
Yeah, exactly. So he was like, "Here, just put them on the schedule. We'll play them." And I'm like, "Nah, bro." He's like, he said to me, I know you like to keep your relationships. So I said, don't worry about that, man. You know, the relationship is intact. I'm not going to allow you to go there and get your brains beat out, you know? So, you know, I really don't have no issue with, you know, none of the coaches that are from Long Branch.
So now you have the athletic director position sold up, and you said your guy, Mr. Bruno, that was his name, right?
Yep.
He put you into the NJSIAA, and tell me how that came about and how was you introduced to it and things of that nature.
So before the NJSIAA situation occurred, I became a part of the Shore Conference Executive Committee. So
okay.
I was our division president. So in our division, we call them like B North, A North. Like that. So I was the B North president. So I represented my division as far as athletic directors are concerned. And that put me into the room with the executive committee. So now I'm inside there, and Mr. Bruno was a big part of that as well prior to moving up to the state. And, you know, I just went in there and worked the room. Now, I have to tell you, there's 48 high schools in our division, in our conference. So our conference, I think, is the second biggest in New Jersey, second biggest conference, and there's 48 high schools. I'm the only, you know, person of color, black person, only a black athletic director in the Shore Conference. So, you know, I always stuck out when I walked in the room. So I always had to walk in with my head up, shoulder, you know, my chin up, my shoulders back, chest out when I walked in the rooms. And it's funny because my first meeting, one of the athletics directors said, "Oh, y'all better move out the way. Jay Corley's coming down the middle with the football, and he's about to score." And, you know, it kind of loosened the air. It loosened me up a little bit because now they knew me from when I played as a player. So, you know, that made me feel a little bit better and a little more confident walking into that room because it was intimidating at first. You know, I was young. I was 32 years old when I first got on. You know, I was still a baby.
So you was on all of this song, and I needed passes. And I had to go through all of this. You should have gave me some passes to the basketball games. So, track your progress from when you first got into to the levels that you went up.
So, after I became the VP, I stayed on, and Mr. Bruno put me on to the state executive committee. And when I went to the state executive committee, it went from one extreme to the next extreme because now I go into this committee and it's 55 people. And it's 55 people with there's senators, New Jersey senators in there, New Jersey assemblymen, Department of Education representatives, superintendents of school districts, assistant superintendents, principals, people from the NJSIAA, principals, supervisor committee. So you got all these big wigs up in there. And then you have the NJSIAA team, which consists of 5 people. The executive director, 2 assistant directors, and 2 one chief operational officer and 1 chief compliance officer. So, you know, I walk into that room and it's like, whew. And then you start hearing about everything that's going on in the state. It's not just Long Branch no more or the Shore Conference. Because, you know, you may think you have a big problem. Then you hear what's going on down towards Atlantic City, and then what's going on up in Newark, and you're like, wow, there's a lot of different extremes. And then there's a lot of, you know, tangibles that go into all of those decisions that are being made based off of just your you know, where you're from, your demographic. So, you know, it was a lot. It was a lot. And I've been a part of that committee now going on almost 10 years.
So take me through the process in terms of making rules that affect the student athletes, the sports in New Jersey? Like, how do y'all come up with the rules, and what's the process to like put them to like enforce them?
So the first thing I got to say, I've been fortunate enough to work under 3 executive directors for the NJSIAA, and Steve Temple, Larry White, and now Colleen McGuire, the first female executive director. She's in charge of everything in the state of New Jersey. And I just want to say she is by far the smartest person, intelligent wise, savvy. She very articulate. She's dope. She's dope, and she was a Division I basketball player. She played at George Washington University, so she knows sports. She was in the business world, and now she's running the state organization. And what I can say, the way things are made is very diplomatic, is nobody makes a decision. All the decisions, and let me highlight that there's only 5 workers. The NJSIAA consists of 5 full-time, really employees there. But like I said, the executive committee down to like about 4 or 5 subcommittees. So anytime a policy or a procedure or protocol is put in place, it comes from that committee, that sports committee. So if I was to say like, I'm not going to say basketball because Colleen is a basketball person. Let's say a football rule just came up, right? That football rule came from the Football Coaches Association up to the football committee, up to the executive committee, who votes and says, hey, and like I said, that executive committee is formed of like 55 people. So it's not, and those rooms get crazy. So you got to think of how superintendents take to it, right? If I'm a football player, I'm gonna say, yeah, we should definitely do that. And then there's the sports medicine committee. So there's a team of doctors that also weigh in.
Wow.
So there's nobody can just say, just like when you hear all these like with football, you can only hit during the week for a certain amount of time. That had to go through the sports medical committee before we start, just like the heat acclimatization rule, the 6 days of practice, 1 day off. All of that came from the sports medical advisory committee. Then it came to the executive committee. Then it was voted on. It goes to the program review committee. Then it comes to the executive committee, and it's voted on. There's no one person that makes these committees. And I trust me, outside looking in, I was a part of that, where I hear people say, oh my God, the state, they do this is messed up. They shouldn't have did that. But understand, all of these decisions come from that committee. So anything that happens in basketball came from the basketball committee, and that's basketball coaches, that's basketball, whoever the basketball people are, that's where it comes from. It doesn't come from the NJSIAA. It comes from there, and it comes up.
Okay.
It's like waking up in the morning and you get something in the mail. You don't know that's in the mail. That's how Colleen is. It's like, oh, I got a letter. Let's see what it says. Okay, now we got to start sending it to this committee, to that committee, before it gets to, the executive committee.
Okay. So what sport do you feel bring you guys the most issues right now?
Issues? I mean, I think all sports have their issues.
Okay.
From my experiences there, I can't say it's just one sport that brings them more. If I'm basketball, right, the things you hear about basketball that's going on, to you guys, to the basketball committee, probably like, oh man, so all these problems with basketball. but then you don't know about the field hockey committee and what's going on with field hockey and what's going on with lacrosse. You know, even issues with golf. You know, believe it or not. But there's so many problems that, you know, that's taking place at one time. You know, up at the NJSIAA level, you know, from hearings. You know, I'm part of the football committee. I'm part of the eligibility committee, where, you know, there's hearings where people have to put in waivers to try to play if you're too old or if you don't have enough credits. That stuff comes to us. You know, there's another committee. You know, that's a smaller committee. These are subcommittees from the executive committee. You know, we have a team of lawyers up there. You know, it's not just an association. It's a real business up at the NJSIAA. And when I tell you there's a team of lawyers, there's a team of lawyers that look through every little thing, if it's from selling popcorn at an event to making time changes in a game.
Wow.
Rule changes, you know?
Wow. What's you guys' stance on NIL, or is that something that you guys don't even like worry about?
Well, we just put out a policy or a proposal for the NIL, and we're just pretty much just trying to model, you know, what they're doing at the NCAA level. We actually had a second. We had to do it like a second. I don't want to call it a second reading because it passed, but we had to make some altercations, some changes to it, because now there's we changed it where like your booster clubs can't pay your kids to come to that school, right? So we added that. If you go onto the NJSIAA website, all of our policies are there. You can go right in and pull them up. You know, we just met on Valentine's Day. We just had a meeting and we just approved new baseball, softball rule, some football information, and some gymnastics information. So, you know, those protocols are there.
Talk a little bit about. I remember I saw you doing some things that was specific for women in terms of like Title IX type thing, or something you was trying to explain to me. Explain to us like your involvement with pushing the women athletics, the girls athletics, and why you were so passionate to be a part of that.
Well, it's dope, man. Females in sports is dope, you know. It's crazy, especially like female wrestling right now. That's a big thing, you know. I tell people all the time, high school sports is $1 billion industry. You know what I'm saying? It's all about money now. It's almost as big as college sports, you know? Especially when you have those top tier athletes. And you know, you know, with the trainings and all of that type of stuff, you know, it's big business. And females now, it's just at its peak. You know, right now we just put in a pilot program for female flag football.
Wow.
So it's a 2-year pilot for flag football. You know, up north they already have it, but in Shore Conference we just really are up and going with it. And it's become in the spring of 2026, it possibly will be a sanctioned sport, which will take away from like lacrosse and softball. You know, right now, like I said, it's a pilot where if a girl plays softball, after the softball practice and game, she can go practice and play on your school's flag football team. So, you know, girls in sports is great. And what you had saw was the 50th anniversary of Title IX. And when I brought all my female athletes together, and we, you know, I brought in some very noteworthy females from Long Branch, Sherry Bolden, who was a professional basketball player overseas for us. way back in the day, because they didn't have the WNBA back when she played. She was the first female big highest recruit in the short conference, and she was from Long Branch, so I brought her in to speak. We had a Board of Education female president, brought in some notable principals in our district and athletes to speak to our female athletes, and it went over great. We gave out T-shirts. We promoted female sports, so the girls in our building will want to participate. You know, so
that's dope, man. That's dope. So now we at the part of the program where we do the 5 cards, and of course, me being a basketball guy, I got some people out there that want to know about some rules and why the rules are in place and some things that got changed around, and try to help us out the best you can with some of this stuff as I bring the cards up. The first one we have that I want to talk about is the transfer rule. Why is the rule in place? How long do you have to sit out? Is there provisions where you can play immediately? And is this messing with people's constitutional rights or happiness to be able to go? If I have a son that's nice in basketball and I'm at one place, why can't I just go to the other school and just play right away? You know what I'm saying? So you can answer those in the order, like the best way you can. Like, why is the rule in place in the beginning?
Okay. So from my understanding, and the best person to ask this question to is Mr. Paul Papaduke, who is the Chief Compliance Officer in the NJSIAA. But
okay.
Just my opinion, and just without overstepping, right? Mm-hmm. I know this came down from the Department of Education, so this wasn't something that that the NJSIAA came up with, and there was some feathers that was ruffled in the basketball community too, mm-hmm. who because everything is politics, right? Mm-hmm. So there was some politics that played a lot into that. And,
okay.
Believe it or not, the rule we had in place was probably the most people felt like it was the most toughest in the country. I'm talking country now. I'm not just talking New Jersey, in which the Department of Education wanted us to try to loosen up on it. So that's pretty much, without me saying too much, how this all kind of came into play, how it kind of started. Some politics down at the lower level, and the Department of Education. Believe it or not, our executive director, she goes to national meetings with other executive directors in the country, and she got praise for our transfer rule, which we kind of mirrored from some other states. So a lot of different states have similar and more harsh transfer rule than we do. But one thing that I do know, the one free transfer, people thought it was going to be like a Wild Wild West, and it really wasn't.
I know.
There was some transfer, but it really wasn't. A lot of people are disappointed with the senior hole with the transfer.
Now explain that a little bit. What's the senior hole?
Well, if you can't, you're going to have to sit if you transfer your senior year, because they don't want people.
I noticed that this year when I saw a couple kids, and I was like, why they not playing right away? And they really set those days.
Yeah, they don't want people, their senior year saying, hey, let's have this awesome senior year. Let's get all our friends together on one team.
Wow.
So it's like, you can do that if you want, but you're going to sit. And then, they just pretty much wanted to kind of calm that down, really.
Now, how does the residents play in it? Is the residents still a way where kids could play right away?
No.
because people was wilding with the residents, right?
Yeah. It don't matter if you could come from Texas, New Jersey, you still gonna have to sit.
Okay. Now, did y'all ever have anybody challenge you guys about their constitutional right of happiness in terms of say like if I had a kid that was talented in music and stuff like that, and I could
This can't be appealed. This can't be appealed.
Wow.
Yeah. So this can't be appealed.
Can't be appealed at all?
No.
Wow. How do y'all determine if something could be appealed or not?
That's more up to the legal end, our team of lawyers. So they know all that black print. That's something I really don't have the answer to.
Okay. Yeah. All right. We got the transfer rule out the way. The next one. I'm supposed to have a picture there. Hold up. Where's my picture at? Well, the picture ain't come up, but it's the shot clock.
There's a lot of talk about that. There's a lot of talk about that.
All right, so let's talk about the shot clock.
There's a lot of talk about that. It's been brought up in conversations, but it's still one of those, a lot of people want it, a lot of people don't, so, but looking ahead, it's something that may come into play, but again, with the shot clock, there's more pieces to that. You got to think of Board of Education, if they can afford to get that type of stuff, because this is something that you're mandating Board of Educations to purchase, right? Shot clocks, the equipment, and all that type of stuff. So, that plays a major role in a lot of this decision. I mean, yeah, we want a shot clock to try to get the game at a faster pace and, give people more opportunities to score and come back and all this type of stuff, and really slow, picking up the game. But, you got to think of the Board of Education's end of it is, hey, do they have the money to afford that?
Yeah, I heard about that. I heard that they had to really pay to put it in. And I know like a lot of college coaches saying that the kids they're coming in there not being able to play under the shot clock because they're not used to it. And I know I went to a couple games where like, yo, this is getting ridiculous now. You know what I'm saying? So I know y'all get a lot of heat about that, but at least it's on the table, man. Hopefully in the future, we'll bring the shot clock through. All right, next one. Tournament of Champions, bro. A lot of people were hurt from it. A lot of people understood it. I'm going to give y'all some credit to it. A lot of people understood it, saying that it was dominated by the parochials. But I'm going to let you talk about what happened with this and why did they decide to do what they did.
Well, like I said, in our meetings, it's everything you just said. It was a lot of discussion about that. But one of the main discussions is equity in all sports. So, there was no Tournament of Champions. Then, like I said, the dominance of the non-publics were there. That was a big deal. But again, everything became equity. That DEI played a lot into everything, into scheduling and the link.
What's the DEI?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Okay.
When that hit the scene after COVID, it kind of changed the trajectory of our world, right? Sports and everything. So
educate us a little bit on that. What is that?
So I'm actually the chair for the NJSIAA DEI committee, and a lot of conversation is when you talk about racism, transgender, female sports, just giving inclusion to everybody, but with that being said, with the Tournament of Champions situation, it was the conversation got into, well, what about this sport? What about that sport? Is it fair here? But I could tell you this, though, a lot of that talk came from the basketball community. The basketball community all agreed to this. This doesn't just happen because the NJSIAA said it wanted to happen. You got to remember, this came up to us.
So the basketball communities wanted it out before it got to y'all.
Yeah. So whoever's in those meetings, I hope they're honest with each other. You know what I'm saying? Because that came up. That wasn't hey, I want to stop this from happening. That wasn't at the state level.
So this is my proposal. Scrap the groups. Let's have one public champion and one non-public champion. That's it. And then they just play it out, regardless of what group you in. One public champion and one non-public champion. I think that'd be dope.
What are you saying? For the tournament of champion?
No tournament of champions.
Just group champions.
No group champions. Just one public school champion. Have a big tournament. One public school champion and one non-public champion throughout the whole state, so we can really you can really say I was the state champ.
But you're saying the public school champion played a non-public?
No, just it ends with one public school champ and one non-public champ.
Is there enough teams in the non-public to do that?
Yeah, just have a tournament. You can cap it off at 32, the top 32 or the top 64 teams or whatever, or the top 32 non-public, and then let them bang out. Well, we don't got to have all these different groups and all of that. Nah, just one champion. And you can really say we was the public school state champs.
Well, that's something that the basketball community should just try to bring up to Mr. Al Stumpf, who is our assistant director, but he's in charge of basketball. So
okay,
the basketball community need to meet with him and reference.
All right. Next one
up. I'm the rubber stamper. You know what I'm saying?
Next one up. State suspensions, team suspensions for the state playoffs. This has been something that's been going crazy right now in terms of teams getting into little incidents on the court, or it might be a bigger one like the Camden and Woodrow Wilson joint from last year and this and that. And once they say 3 players come on the court off the bench, they're going to be ejected. So if you lose 3 or more players in the during the season or something like that, you can't make the playoffs. So a lot of teams have been getting now I ain't gonna say a lot. A few teams have got kicked out because of this rule. But my thing is, an emotional thing is basketball, and you didn't grind it with the team for all these years, and y'all done built a brotherhood. Isn't that kind of a natural reaction, or it's more about safety with you guys?
And that's exactly what it is. It's all about safety. Sports is for competition, is for growth, is for learning. As athletic directors, we are teaching lessons that aren't taught in the classroom, right? So we're teaching those type of lessons. And, we just had, you have to look at it like we want safety for not only our athletes, but the coaches, the spectators. That's why we want to hold head coaches more accountable. Because a head coach body language is, erratic. The stand is going to get erratic. The spectators are going to get erratic. But if that coach is not phased, guess what? The stands are calmed down. You'll still have those people in the stands that are who they are. But, if they see you, going crazy, that'll give them more power to jump. But as far as the rule goes, it's 3 disqualifications in a season, not just one game. But in a situation like this, if a bench clears, let's say 2 kids get into a scuffle on the court, if the bench clears, every kid that comes off of that bench to do what? I guess create a riot or whatever. Because if the bench clear, the spectators are going to clear. The stands, you know. So you want to try to control that as a head coach. You know, I tell people all the time, when I was a facilitator, you know, when I walked around that corner and there were some kids playing around, and if they saw me and then they just turn back and continue to do what they're doing, do they respect me? You know what I mean? But if I came around that corner and they see me and then they scattered, that told me they respect me. So a head coach has the head coach has to have that, and we're putting it more back on the head coach. And again, that was something that was discussed in one of our executive committees. We actually put a policy together, which is on the website, and that was our last meeting that we approved that one. Just put more onus on the head coach having being more accountable for his assistant coaches and his team. And that's something that I stress to my coaches is, hey, make sure you practice this.
That's what I was about to say. Do they have that? Do you think more coaches are putting that into practice, like in their practices, actually having a drill for this kind of situation?
Yeah, they should. All the athletic directors have been put on notice, you know. And again, I'm not saying I'm the best or the most perfect athletic director, but there's things that I do. I tell my coaches to practice this disqualification. It's in my agenda, so I never miss it. And if I ever have to refer back to it, it's there. So again, like I said, I like to hold my coaches accountable. You know, you practice if there's a fight in the stands. You practice just like a fire drill in school. You practice a shooter in the building or outside. Your kids need to know where to be, where to go without even thinking about it. You know, oh, it's a shot. Coach said this is where we're supposed to meet, because it gets chaotic out there. And this is one of those situations that if the bench clears, if 3 kids come off that bench, that's 3 disqualifications, and then your team is exited from the playoffs. Now I believe you can put in you could try to appeal it, and then it can go to our controversy committee, but you know, if it's clear to the rule, then you know you're not going to come out of that as a winner, right?
Now, I could see like maybe 3-game suspension, 4-game suspension, but the state playoffs, though, that's not a little too harsh?
I mean, if it ain't harsh, are you learning? You know?
Wow.
If it ain't harsh, you're learning, you know. I could probably get in trouble for what I'm about to say now, but when we was growing up, when your mom took that belt out and whooped you, you know what I mean? You knew you ain't want that. I could tell you, I got one spanking my whole life, and I see John Rogers jumped up. And, you know, my mom used to jump in our butts. You know, she didn't just beat me; she'd beat him. You know, we all get beatings, but you can't do that nowadays. Now, you know, but you know, it was harsh. You know. And
Good point. Now, how do they? You're not on this committee, so you don't really know how they exactly examine the games to see what happened. Is it video? Like, do they go by referee reports, or how do they examine what happened?
Oh, a whole complete investigation takes place. But first, it's a self-investigation, meaning the school investigates. You know, so the school has to go back and investigate and send something to, like I said, one thing about the NJSIAA, they put all the work back to the school to tell on yourselves. You know, even though we may know the answer, you know, it's the integrity piece. You go back, we want you to put it in writing, so you can't say it was the NJSIAA. You know, you found it. You were put on notice. These are our policies and protocols. You wrote it down, you sent it, so you've seen it. So whatever, you know, those consequences are, you told us that you did it. It's sort of like a rebuttal, Like I tell, my coaches and teachers all the time, you can rebut anything that I said you did. You can do that in your evaluation. But what is a rebuttal? It's just you really admitting what you did and you just giving me an excuse. Think about it. If I said
you're right.
You came to work late, right? Mike, you came to work late, so I wrote you up. And you write a rebuttal. I came to work late because I had a flat tire. Well,
still came to work late.
The issue is you came late.
Yeah,
right?
Blank.
You know what I mean? So you just told me what you did. I don't care about the flat tire because if I'm writing you up for it, clearly this is probably not the first time. You know what I mean? So you already told me what you did. That's all a rebuttal is.
What's the percentage of these type of things that get overturned?
Again, I'm on this committee. Some of these things do get overturned.
Okay.
There's always circumstances that are out of people's control.
Okay.
But a lot of them are clear and precise. You can see the situation, But I'm not going to say, like I said, there's a committee, and just because you're on that committee, everybody's not agreeing with everybody.
I can imagine.
I've been in meetings where people want to get up and punch, have a straight fight in these committee meetings. I've been in there where, districts brought their board of education lawyers into these meetings, and it gets real. It's not a game. And people think the NJSIAA is a game. It's not a game. That's why I tell you, I give a lot of credit to Colleen McGuire because she's built for this position. And I wouldn't say that if I didn't really mean that. She's built for this. She's unfazed, unemotional, and everything she does is diplomatic. So she's built for it.
Okay. Next up. Recruiting middle school players. Now, this is something that teams used to get in trouble for back in the day. You might see a kid on the bench at he in 8th grade and he chilling on the bench with the high school and this and that. But I saw something when I guess the public schools felt like that the non-publics had an advantage of being able to do this kind of thing. So it seems like you guys just opened it up for everybody. Take me into what was the whole process and the thinking behind this?
Well, a lot of the conversation was, again, the parochials and then like these middle school signing days.
Sorry, I was part of that problem. Like this type of thing right here. That was Isaiah Briscoe when he picked St. Benedict's. Yeah, I was part of that problem.
I think it's cool, I think it's cool.
Yeah.
But believe it or not, for example, Long Branch High School, you've been to our campus. You see our middle school is probably, 50 feet, 100 feet away from the high school?
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't go into the middle school and say, come to the Long Branch High School. That was considered recruiting. And that's my district.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
wow.
See, people didn't know that. Like I couldn't go in there until they graduated. You know what I mean? So even though people were going into the schools and having the speeches saying, "Hey, let's freshman sports are coming," and that usually took place like in May. Here's a sign up, physical stuff like that. But that was considered recruiting. And the reason it was considered recruiting was just because they go to school in your district, you still got to give them an opportunity to go where they want to go.
Wow. Wow.
So it kind of for public schools as well to have an opportunity to speak to their kids as well.
Do you think that this impact is going to help public schools, or you think that kids are just going to still go to the best bidder?
I mean, kids still gonna do, what the parents, and I this is just my opinion, parents are gonna do what they think is best for their kids, right? And in today's society, again, sports is a big business. So if somebody's in my ear about my son, I'm really going to start looking at that, right? You should take your son and let him go play here. He'll get more exposure. I can do this for him. I can do that. I might listen to that. And then I say, okay, well, let's do it. Or you can just have those traditional parents like myself, where I wore the green and white. I don't care how good my kid is. I don't care how good the team is. You're going to wear that green and white. You know what I'm saying? Like, that was just me.
Wasn't no way Corley wasn't playing linebacker. I saw him out there.
Yeah, that was just me.
So he wasn't going to go to St. John Vianney or Red Bay Catholic? None of that?
Wasn't going to happen. Wasn't going to happen because, my biggest thing is you're going to get an education first. And then I put it in God's hands if he's going to get an athletic scholarship or not. My thing is, if you work hard enough, you're going to get where you need to go. I'm not going to look for a shortcut to get you there,
Wow.
But at the same time, listen, my youngest son just had surgery just a few minutes ago.
Wow.
He had a fractured toe. So, as soon as we get off of this, I got to check on him. His mom had to take him to the emergency room, so he just had surgery. But again, what if that was a season-ending injury? But my son is a National Honor Society student.
Praise the Most High for that.
You see what I'm saying? So,
indeed.
As long as he's educated, the sports are taken away. We could use that sports as a vehicle, but again, vehicles break down. You know what I'm saying?
Wow. So, I like that. Vehicles break down.
So, we got to be able to MacGyver our way out of that. Look, a lot of young boys don't know MacGyver.
I know who he took. I know who he is. He fixed everything. Now, you also do have something to do with the Hall of Fame, New Jersey, NJSIAA Hall of Fame, State Hall of Fame for the sports. And for basketball, you guys just had a class that went in, which included Mergen Cena at Gil St. Bernard's, a good friend of mine. What's the process and the criteria that you guys look at when you're selecting people to the Hall of Fame?
Now, I'm not on that committee.
Okay.
What I am, again, I do take the pictures, right? I'm a guy after they get their award, they come take a picture with me, right? They probably like, who's this guy, But that's the guy I am. But I know there's a committee, and people put in their recommendations, they put in that information, they filled out those forms, and that form goes to another committee of about 20 people who really, and the age range is ridiculous. So people from young people to old people on those committee that can break down, because if you don't know that person, maybe that the person that's 60 years old may know that person.
Wow, so that's smart to have that range.
Yeah, so that range, and all these people, they meet and they just dissect and compare, and I'm sure that's how it works. So we just had the New Jersey Sports Coaches Association Hall of Fame. We just had that one last month. And in March, we have the NJSIAA Sports Hall of Fame coming up.
Wow.
So I know there's a couple of ex-NFL players there from New Jersey who's being inducted and stuff like that.
So, and I heard you mention God a few times. You know where I'm at with my walk, man. You've been had different kind of conversations, and I always like to ask this question to my guests that come on. Give us a situation where you feel like God pulled you through so you can be an example for other people's of his work?
Man, they're again, being the first black athletic director in Long Branch, being the only black athletic director in the short conference, there's a lot of trials and tribulations and barriers that's put in front of me. There's been plenty of offers for me to do something else or move on, if it's for economic reasons or just peace of mind. And again, it's a blessing and a curse to be where I grew up. Because there's some people that think they know you, but they know the 18-year-old you. They don't know the 48-year-old you. And sometimes that put challenges in front of you. But for the most part, I went through the storm. I prayed on it. I meditated on it, and I'm standing here 2 feet, 10 toes down on my square. Again, with my chin up, my shoulders back, and my chest out. People watching my glow.
Okay. What's the future hold for Jay Corley? Because I seen a lot of stuff, bro. I seen that when you sent me the bio. I'm like, my boy doing the thing. So I see some. Do we see some type Mayor Corley, Governor Corley, like President Corley? Like, talk to me. What's in the future, bro?
Nah, I definitely got a plan. I'm moving. When I move from here, it's going to be up, and I don't mean up in school district. I mean up in society. It could be. I'm not a politic fan. I'm not into that. Because you could get tore up, and back when I was in high school, John Rogers and back in college, we had a good time. I don't need all those. Your picture's gonna be there too. So if I'm gonna put my stuff out there, you're gonna be right there.
Chill.
So I don't think I'm gonna do the politic thing, but I'm definitely gonna be higher up in the state when it comes to sports, and that's a fact.
So that's close it out with. How do you want Jason M. Corley to be remembered?
Man, I just want people. I don't want them to remember me as somebody who they feel like is important. I don't want them to know me like that. I want them to see that, I'm cut from the same cloth as them, regardless of if it's cotton, if it's silk. I want to be able to change faces and be able to move in any crowd that I'm put in. I want people to understand that I'm approachable. I'm somebody that is understanding to any situation that presents someone who needs to have a conversation with. You can come see me at any time. I don't want to be generic and say I'll give you the shirt off my back, but I'll do everything in my power to help you, get where you have to get, if that's behind the scenes or if I got to be on the front line. I want people to understand that, Jay Corley got you.
Man, first I want to thank you for coming on, bro. And I also want to say I created this platform to give people their flowers because I had a guy that coached at Little League after I graduated from Little League. He came in and started coaching, and when I saw him on Facebook that he died, I was looking at it like, wow, this man never got a chance to really tell his story that I knew of. But then you see all the posts with people finally saying like how great he was and this and that. So I believe in giving people their flowers that did a lot for their community and did a lot of things, man. And personally, I'm proud of you. Like I said, when we came on, from being a friend, being there and really us growing up together. You know what I'm saying? Traveling across seas together, doing all types of stuff, having fun. You hooking me up with the gyms down in Long Branch so we can have the tournament spread out, like just seeing my growth and always being a supporter and never like a hater, like because you have that kind of stuff. Some people that be around you, you feel what I'm saying? Always a supporter and wanted to see me win, and that meant a lot to me, bro. And being there, the last person I was with on the day, that I went through my tragedy. You know what I'm saying? I'm not. They like, where you was at? I was at Jay Corley house watching football, like, and you being there with me going through that situation and just being a friend, bro. And I want to thank you, and I'm so proud of you of where you taking this thing at and the kind of man that you turned into. You get what I'm saying? So I want to give you your flowers now and tell you how proud of you I am, brother, that you really doing your thing. And I can say I got a friend when I tell people, yeah, that's my boy. He the athletic director there. Then my boy president at NJSIAA. Like, that makes me feel proud to be able to say that and that you did your thing, man. And we made KU proud, man. We came out here and we did our thing and we made a mark from Bartlett to here. You feel what I'm saying? Like, we did the thing, you know what I mean? So I want to give you your flowers now, all the way from the redhead days, bro. You know what I mean? So I want to thank you for coming on, brother. I'm gonna send you the copy of the whole interview as soon as we get off, and then I'm gonna send the thing to my clip to my clip app, and then I had the clips in like 45 minutes, and then I start putting them joints out, tagging you in them. I could send them to you on WhatsApp, and you could put them out, and we could go from there, bro. I love you, man. Thanks for coming on. Give the family love. Tell your sons I said what's up, brother.
All right, man. I love you, man. Appreciate you.
All right, no doubt, brother. Peace. That was Jay Corley, a good friend, man. We go all the way back, man. And he broke down a lot of questions that people had that they wanted to know about the different things. And that's what we're here for. Tune in next week as we come back with another guest. And tomorrow night on Soberheads Podcast, I have a very special guest, Stephanie R. She's coming on. We're going to do it at 7 o'clock. So tune in tomorrow night at 7 o'clock for the Soberheads Podcast so she can share her experience, strength, and hope. This is Mike. Enjoy the rest of your night. Shalom.